Hey everybody, this is Petey from the Spinner Rack. We also have
Calvin Ellis, ready to rock.
today, they finally did it. They finally found a ghostwriter that seems to be right for the role. We're not sure who they're picking to be which character, which of the, well, I think there's four, there's one on the horse, but of the three that we know, which one will it be? Will it be Danny Ketch? Will it be Johnny Blaze? But it looks kind of like Johnny Blaze. Or will it be, what's it, Robbie? Was it Robbie?
Robbie Reyes.
Robbie Reyes. So it definitely probably won't be Robbie Reyes, but
Well, he's not going to be the original Ghost Rider, the guy riding the horse. That's not going to happen.
uh,
Even though to be quite honest, I still think he's the coolest one. He's not going to be him. I know this. This is other one. Alejandro, what's her name? Alejandra Jones. He's like the first female Ghost Rider. I don't think they're going to do that. It's probably going to be Johnny Blaze.
now I would say the thing is, I think I was arguing with a friend about it, saying that he liked Robbie Reyes, and it was like, why would you get rid of that? You had a cool car, that sort of stuff. And I was like, for me, Johnny Blaze is kind of a universal character. Even though he wasn't that big of a character, it was called in the 80s the book Marvel couldn't cancel because it was doing well enough to stay alive. And but at the same time, like Ghost Rider, I could see him as maybe the actor William Catt, who kind of played the Greatest American Hero, that kind of curly type of hair that kind of fit the 70s and maybe the 80s one. And then say you take, I don't think, I want to think of, I guess you could say maybe Brad Pitt when he was younger with longer hair. But I was thinking more of a hair metal type of guy, like a rocker, to be the Johnny Blaze from the '90s. That was kind of the. I'm just making sure this Ghost Rider isn't a monster. And then when I saw the Fast and the Furious, I saw Paul Walker as possible. So seeing Ryan Gosling as Johnny Blaze, it works for me. It's a little late in the day, but at the same time, who's that guy? Man, who played Ghost Rider in the other two films? Yeah, I don't know why I'm forgetting.
Nick Cage.
Nick Cage, thank you. Nick Cage, when he was young, could have definitely been Johnny Blaze, but he definitely played him at too late in life. But looking at what the problem with those movies, besides Nick Cage, is that you had $500 million movie success, and those movies just made back their money, like not just exact, they double, so they basically paid off their money, so did well enough. But it's in the same time, when you have these huge successes, there wasn't a time to have one. You needed four times the success of what you had. You need to get into the 500 millions, and the or even 400 millions would probably be great for it. But it only got, I think, what was it, 71 one is like got the 200. It cost them like 100 million. It made like 200 million, and then the other one, it cost like 57 and it made like 160. So it did well, but not in the same time when you got all these other Marvel huge successes. But I think this is a good step. I think the hard part is, I guess what's that movie that he did? The space movie that Ryan Gosling did. That one did well for him.
Hail Mary.
Hail Mary. But the Fall Guy, which was pretty good, didn't do well at all. But for kind of leading men like Brad Pitt, or even Tom Cruise, or no, more so say like the guy who played Thanos, he'd had a bunch of failures on his thing, and they still would be like, this is our Thanos, this is our Cable, even though he did Jonah Hex and it was terrible. Yeah, but he had a success in Hail Mary, so this is working for him. So maybe this will be the big success Ghost Rider can get. But the hard part for me, well, any of your thoughts on it? Because before I go into something else, any more thoughts you have on this?
What I heard there was an announcement. Can you remind me what exactly the announcement is?
Oh, that they're doing Ghost Rider in 2027.
That the, Okay, so they're doing a new Ghost Rider film or series?
New film with Ryan Gosling, directed by Sean Levy. And
Ryan Gosling. Okay, so he's going to be Johnny Blaze. He's not going to be Danny Ketch.
yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. That would be okay. That would be okay. That could work. Yeah, I could definitely see that working. Wow, I'm actually interested just because you said Ryan Gosling.
Oh,
I'm
good, good.
actually interested.
Yeah.
No,
So,
he was, you know what? The last movie I saw him in, do you know what he was great in?
well,
Barbie.
oh, I didn't see. I still haven't seen that yet.
He made that movie for me. There's this part where, what did they say that they had designed like the Ken dolls to be just like boy band members or something of that nature for, for the girls. So there's this whole scene where he's doing this song called I'm Just Ken.
Hmm.
And he does, I mean, he was great. He was just great in that movie. That movie was barely tolerable for me for the amount of misandry they had in it. But Ryan Gosling was great. And then that part there was like just so much, it was so much fun. So he was good in that. And the Project Hail Mary, I just saw that. I was impressed with that movie because it was so positive
Mm.
in a landscape where everything is so like negative and always with the knee-jerk reactions and the boilerplate responses. How dare you? How could you do this to me? All that nonsense. It was much more positive, better thought out. So he was good in those last two things that I saw him in. I was like, yeah, this is pretty good. So yeah, just but I could easily see him as Johnny Blaze on the cycle, going through the tormented stuff. He's got the right look, young enough. Yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool.
Well, he also has a Star Wars Starfighter coming to theaters. So
That
that's
would
the
also be
same.
cool.
So that's with same director Sean Levy. So in 20, I was wrong. It's 2028. Um, we'll be getting this, and it said Levy, he directed Deadpool and Wolverine also. So he's running. He looks like he's going to have a series of successes going on, and but at the same time, I'm going to now, you know, hijack this and say, well, how did you figure this thing out? Well, you got the hard part is having an actor and having a director means it's a gold movie usually, and you have someone like Sean Levy who has a bunch of things, and obviously you have this. I think Hail Mary kind of proves that Ryan Gosling is still a movie star. Feels like we only have three now. I thought we only had two, and Brad Pitt. Um, see, my mind is going. It's going from obviously Mission Impossible. Say it for me, please. I don't know. I keep dropping.
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise. Thank you. I'm dropping names like a bad habit. So that's so there we go. So we have him who's even though what's name didn't work out, he looks like they are going to solidify his star. And obviously with Hail Mary being on cable and doing pretty well, but at the same time, why not Blade? You got Blade, you got an
You know why?
actor, He's there.
Go ahead.
You said it.
Come on, PD. Say it. You know why? You know why? Come on.
I'm
Come
going
on.
worse than what you say. I'm going to say the problem is that
Mars isn't here.
we already got a
Mars can't
black
stop
movie.
us.
We already got a black movie in the Black Panther. Why are they making us do Blade? We're only going to do
Exactly.
one.
That's half of it. That's half of it. And if
What's
he's
the
going to
other?
be black, we need to make him special black, you know? We need to make him special black. Okay? We got to put a Q at the end of him. And Mahershala Ali said, hell no, no way. I'm not being gay. So until we find an actor who's willing to be gay, we will not see Blade.
And that's the thing is, the hard part is with this thing. They said yes. They announced it the same like they're announcing what's the name, but they took it off the schedule, and then they said that we just didn't want to have Blade run around chasing vampires, and it's like, what the hell else do you want to do with Blade?
They
What
want
is
him running around. They wanted him running around having sex with vampires. That's what they wanted. The gay ones.
Well, that's the other thing. And then I was thinking, because everyone talks about how, well, the thing is, you don't know anyone's a good character until someone, pulls out what's good in them. Like in this idea that the Marvel characters, found their footing, and the X Men didn't, and then the new X Men didn't. but you have to have someone kind of dig these things out. It doesn't always work for every character, like say the new Guardians at DC, but at the same time, even I was thinking before they did Bendis was doing Daredevil, that I was like thinking of Daredevil and like trying to have in the same locations, but kind of use. No, actually, I talked to I think on there was on the John Byrne message board. He said something. He always brings up there's no bad characters, only bad writers, and this is how you handle the character. And I said, well, what would you do with the
I'm not sure
manager?
about that.
Well, that's a Neil Adams thing. That's a Neil Adams thing. And the thing is that,
Yeah, I think there's still some bad characters
well, the thing about it like this.
because of that. If you have bad writers can create bad characters, right? So,
Well, no,
and
it's not. It's not about the. It's about the approach to it. So, saying the characters that are struggling, like say Batman or Superman, or that were struggling during those periods, and people saying they can't be done. That's the idea, is that you can find. It's not talking about the extreme where there's obviously going to be that, but they'll turn to a character that's had something and did well, and say, well, this character doesn't work to the present, or the original X-Men, they don't work. They don't. We'll use all the bits from the new original X-Men, but they don't work. These guys. So that's the thing. Is not trying to go to the characters that don't work, but the characters that do work. And the same thing like the Avengers. The Avengers are characters that people said are. They still say the Avengers were the worst. These are they were the Marvel lowest selling characters, but they were all editor books. Captain America was done by an editor. He had success, but he'd been on the book for 12 years. You know, Iron Man at that point later was done by an editor. Thor, Fantastic Four, and all those were the lowest selling of the mainstay books. And at some point, they were Marvel's top books. So, in thinking about it in that sense, you can you can go through the Marvel universe and find characters that will build up, because Wolverine wasn't actually a winner, and when he got to the X-Men, he wasn't a winner there because Dave Cockrum and Chris Claremont didn't like him either. They were like, we like, then they lose Thunderbird and they're like, well, Thunderbird even had a better costume. Why are we stuck with Wolverine? And we had Thunderbird, who's in the primary colors, and he basically does what Wolverine does with the claws. And they did say, the claws should be real, but they were like, this guy's a total jerk. And then, well, Byrne decided to say, hey, I'm going to stick to it. And I say, stick with him. And then at the same time, Byrne and Claremont were battling. And then we get Wolverine as the character saying, he obviously is cool. Then we go back to the old stories. Oh, yeah, he was cool. He's even in cool when Dave and before Byrne, he was cool. It was just, he was an SOB. We'll just get rid of the SOB. So I think in going through, and I was going through some Marvel characters, and it's like, they have characters that were big in the 90s that they bought. And it's like you got a plethora of characters where you don't have to pick the bad ones and make them good. Like picking Wolverine. Oh, I picked Wolverine. I think, Byrne, I think this guy is cool. And I'm going to put this. Oh, Punisher. Stephen Grant says, I got one story with Punisher that I want to do. And they've been done well with Frank Miller. And, he's done well early on. And but then it's like, let me do this one story. And then he takes off and he's getting, 3 to 4 books. And, they super saturated the character. And even the lunatic, he gets taken back, then it becomes Lobo, and he slowly builds. So it's like, go through your characters and find someone. But you have the same with Ghost Rider. Blade has more success than Ghost Rider. Even the third one, which is the bad one, it just barely makes its money back. So the thing is, they were going to go in a different direction, but that was the director saying, I want to do the Midnight Suns. I don't want to do Blade anymore. So, like, why would you do that when you have the character that's the name of the thing? Like, let's get Wesley out, because Wesley got a good stake in this, and he can say what he wants, and he can come up with scenes and stuff like that. I'm, kind of put all these pieces together in David. David Goyer. I got one name. David Goyer. He's like, this is my. I'm directing. I'm doing it. I got Dracula in this, and he totally bailed on it. So the hard no. In truth, I'll say it like this: they had Deadpool and Wolverine, and they had Blade in it. So Feige's like, they already did them. It's done. I don't. What are we gonna do now? They already got him in that. I'm not. He doesn't like touching things everyone else did. He had to do Daredevil because there was no way around it. But those characters now interact in Daredevil. They're not going around and doing other shows. He doesn't like having to pick up something someone else did and utilize it. The X-Men, well, Hugh Jackman. He's like, I feel a part of Hugh Jackman. I can take him along, but it would have to be Hugh Jackman's idea because he was gonna. Ryan Reynolds said he was gonna torch Feige was going to torch whatever he came to him with for what's that thing for Deadpool 3, and what Hugh Jackman called and said, "Hey, I want to do Wolverine again." He said, "Dude, are you lying?" He's like, "Yeah, I think I want to do Wolverine again. I want us as a buddy film, like where we're fighting all the time, right?" He's like, "A 48 hours like that. We want to do that." It's like, going to Feige, he's gonna kill whatever I try to do. But if you say you want to do this, I will scrap everything we were doing and we'll do that. He's like, yeah, I want to do it. He's like, okay, I'm hanging up. So I feel, and besides the stuff we said, I do feel that he doesn't feel the need to have to do it because he knew this was coming out in this was going to be the surprise in Deadpool Wolverine. So it's like, oh, wipe my hands for it. I'm going to Ghost Rider, which if you go by success and you go by the idea that Blade started all this, then why not do Blade first? And you have the actor, so it's no reason. But you got Ryan Gosling; he's a big star. Now you're going that route. So what can we do? It's easy. Well, no, Ghost Rider should have been easy out for even what's the name because you have a flaming skull, motorcycle, all that stuff. All the stuff that was added in the '90s series with the chain kind of going, like I think before Spawn was doing all that stuff with the cape. Ghost Rider was doing all that stuff with the chain. So, oh, I'm hearing your TV.
Oh man, keep forgetting. It was on pause. No pun intended.
But what do you think about that? The last comparison is saying them switching from Blade to Ghost Rider. They might not see it like that, but what do you feel?
About the re-upping on Ghost Rider or the original two?
Um, that yeah, just in general. I guess just to go in general, whatever you feel.
I thought here's the thing that a lot of people would have to acknowledge with the original Ghost Rider films. You can say what you like about Nick Cage's casting, but that first film was successful enough to get a sequel,
Yeah.
and this was in the '90s, so that's not necessarily an easy feat. So with that being said, uh, sorry. With that being said, I think it's very good that you're actually revisiting this series again because it was viable. I don't. The trouble is, it was the '90s,
No, it's not. It was
and
in the 2000s. They did it. They did it in
it
2000.
was a. And when I say '90s, I mean like that circa that era in terms of making superhero movies.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, because what are we getting in that? We got the Punisher with Thomas Jane. We got Daredevil. We got no,
Oh
we didn't get that. We got Daredevil. Then you had
no, we got we
the
got
Ghost
we
Rider,
got Blade. We got Blade.
right?
X-Men was 2000. I guess Spider-Man was before that.
Well, Blade starts the whole thing, and then we get we get the Hulk, we get a bunch of movies here and there,
Yeah.
and I just don't think there was a lot of cohesion in terms of the filmmaking when it came to the superhero stuff. It's like, oh, what are we doing? We're just making a movie, right? we're just making a movie. So the idea of like, especially with the Marvel stuff, that no, this is part of an overall universe we didn't really get. And then it seemed like the movie, kind of like what they did with Green Lantern, where we're going to try to do everything in the first movie. So, we're going to have Green Lantern, we're going to have the Lantern Corps, we're going to have Parallax, we're going to have Sinestro, we're going to have this. It's like it's too much, and it's too big for the story you're trying to tell and too weak for the story you're trying to tell as well. So I think with if they had looked at it where they were like, all right, we're going to make, we're looking to do a trilogy here. We're really going to map this out. These are the major Ghost Rider villains because we should have seen Mephisto a long time ago if they were really thinking on that level. And it just never happened. This was like each movie was like kind of like a one and done. And if we make a sequel, like, hey, that's great. This is the second movie is going to be free money because we already got the infrastructure now, so we don't have to worry about making any new costumes or anything of that nature. So that's how I saw them. I thought, you know, I watched both of them. I didn't go to the theater to see them. I saw both of them on TV. Yeah, if you got some time to kick back, you need something on the screen, or you late one night, you can't sleep, can't do worse than watch the Ghost Rider films. They're
Oh,
not horrible
I
movies.
bet.
Okay, they're not horrible movies, but they're not like stellar stuff either. But Ghost Rider as a character, Ghost Rider as a character, that's something else. That's a really cool Johnny Blaze. Johnny Blaze, not necessarily Danny Ketch or any of the other guys, or Robbie Reyes driving a what is he driving? Like a Camaro or something?
Yeah.
With the engine exposed, him over here driving an auto. Da- Johnny Blaze, okay? Stunt motorcyclist, that character is always cool. Always cool. The only one cooler than him is the guy on the horse. So the fact that they had to wait so long to bring him back and he had already experienced success as a movie, because you don't get two by being a failure. So he already had some success over there, but the approach, unfortunately, the approach to the films at that time period. I mean, we start with Blade. I'm trying to think, where did it really end? I can't. I wouldn't know. It's like the last film before we get this stuff of like before we get Iron Man. But these movies were all pretty much just like one and done. There was more. Do you remember the action pack that was on?
The cartoon, yeah.
No, not the cartoon. This was the live action. Eventually, they had stuff like this is where you would have seen like Hercules,
Oh
Vanishing
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Sun.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, they had less cohesion with the Marvel movies than they did with the action pack.
No.
Literally, when you would watch this stuff and it's like, hey, what's going on? It's like Saturday afternoon, it's 3 o'clock. I got like at least another 4 or 5 hours before it's time to go out. What's on TV? Oh, the action pack, give you like an hour, 2 hours of just just literally some disposable entertainment that had more cohesion than a lot of the superhero stuff that we saw at
Oh,
that time.
so let me just clarify the time frame, right? Because
Mhm.
You said it with Iron Man. So we have Blade, then we have Spider-Man, and then we have the X-Men. That's stuff from Fox, right? So
Mhm.
we have the X-Men and some more Spider-Mans, but then Marvel doesn't start trying to do like they had the Ghost Rider in 2007, and then as you're saying, Iron Man is in 2008, and that's when
Right.
you're talking about the cohesion where everything is like trying to do a universe which changed the whole superhero genre. They're like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
let's try to build that. So I'm just saying, from as you were saying, which you said it in there, 2008 is when Iron Man happens, and that's where the cohesion part. Where before it was just here's a Fantastic Four, his X Men, his Spider Man. They're not necessarily connected. Then we have Ghost Rider and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, because look, who would have been the two biggest franchise out of that era for Marvel would have been Spider-Man and the X-Men.
Yeah.
Those would have been your two biggest. And both of them followed the same pattern. Good start with the first one. Second one, I believe was, definitely, better, stronger. And by the third one, they were running out of gas. They were running out of gas with the third one. And then you have to ask yourself, maybe I could see that with the X-Men because I don't think they really had a strong approach overall. You know, and the third one had a different director. But how do you run out of gas on the third Spider-Man movie with the rogues gallery that Spider-Man has? And look they had four different villains in that third movie. And it was pretty clear by the third one, you get the feeling that they were making this movie because the other ones were successful, not necessarily because they wanted to do this movie. With the X-Men, it was sort of like, well, we got people under contract, we got to do a third movie, and we do the third movie and we're out there. So it was that type of thing where a lot of the you get the feel when you look back at those movies that this is literally this is one and done. Okay, it's one and done. If we come back for another one, great, but we're not looking to actually build something here. And that's no good when it comes to superheroes because when you look, they have this long legacy of serial storytelling. It's not one and done. Their approach to the movie was not as a serial, but more like a one shot. And that's what I got with the. I'll still call, I'll say the '90s era, even though knowing it still goes into the 2000s. But like that
No,
era circa from
I,
Blade to like
mhm.
Ghost, that era circa from Blade to Ghost Rider. But then I look, Ghost Rider was successful, and they still waited a long time to tap that movie to come back again.
Well, that's the thing because the other another one obviously you said in there was Daredevil, so it's like it is a bunch of superhero movies. It was just superhero movies are a success, and Marvel
We got a
had
lot too.
characters. So yeah, it's like it was not just the X Men. Then you had Then the hard part is that
We
the
got Daredevil.
mhm.
We got Daredevil. We got Elektra, as if
So we got
Elektra really
election.
needed a solo film.
Yeah, we got
We got
election.
we got Wolverine, Wolverine Origins. That was not a good movie. I don't care what anybody wants to tell me. That was not a good movie. But hey, we got that one in there. And then what was the follow up? The Wolverine.
Yeah, yeah. The Wolverine was a follow
Yeah, so we got those. But there was a lot of movies. There
up.
was a lot, especially on Marvel side. There was a lot of movies. A lot of movies.
Well, that's the thing. It's really tough to look at these things. I guess, yeah, I guess, because I now looking at it, it makes more sense of what the budget to the success of the movies because it's around. I guess looking at Ghost Rider, for what it did, it made its money back, and it's not until you get to Iron Man where it kind of starts getting crazy when you get to those Marvel movies. Looking at the X Men, and that did, I guess, like three times. Like, oh, okay, that did a little more. So you expect with the X Men and Spider Man and Daredevil kind of doing less, and they decided, hey, let's do Electra, but we don't want to touch any of the the heavy stuff or find a way to kind of soften that. So, but yeah, it's definitely that period of all of the movies of post Blade that were not necessarily trying to do a cohesive type of thing. And but yeah, so I don't know. It's a Ghost Rider is something that his I was also saying because I didn't necessarily I met him more in the Champions and when the before they decided well
Really?
all
Did you ever go back and read any of the stuff from like Marvel Premiere or his own series?
I watched. There's only a couple. I think the one where he had the Hulk in it, but no, I'm saying his this character had much of the edge. He struggled with the Russian character in there. One of the best bits I liked, besides him having the standard Marvel conflict, was they have the stranger. He comes in. The he's seemingly attacking the champions, and we see Dark Star shoot her black power at him, and the stranger knocks her down. And then Iceman is like, Blaze, what are you doing? Like we gotta study. See what he just did to her. And Blaze is like human. He said, it's Iceman. He's not trying to cause a fight. He's here for some other reason. Else I would have turned to Ghost Rider. And then you see Black Widow shoot her sting at him, and then the stranger knocks down Black Widow, and then he immediately changes Ghost Rider, and he's like, "Oh, the Widow's down," and then he gets all upset because he likes Black Widow, and that portion I love where it was like it was selective to who he would
But that
choose
was
for danger.
that was little that was a little off character. I mean, when I saw Ghost Rider in the Champions, I was like, how's this going to work? Isn't he cursed? So
Well, he
because you go to the original stories and he's cursed with this whole thing. And then it became more of like a Hulk thing where he reacted, it was
yeah
like
yeah
emotional
yeah that's
or
what happened
something
in
of that
Champions.
nature. And but then they started tying in more, that no, this is a curse. This is a curse at the end of the day, and that was definitely more complexity to the character. By the time you got to Danny Ketch, then he was like, oh, he's a spirit of vengeance. I was like, I'm not too sure about this. And then they had this whole thing with the penance stare, and you guys arguing like, oh, well, who would the Pennister work on? Who would it not work on? I was like, this is, anyway. But the original stuff I really liked. Just a really good, great concept. And he is cursed. And the whole idea was like, at least initially, he's like kind of flipping the curse, you know, doing this type of thing. But he's trying to get rid of this, and that's where the like the Hulk aspects started to come in, where the Hulk is trying to cure, well, Banner's trying to cure himself, and Blaze is trying to find some way out of this, which he does by the end of his series in issue 80. But when they were trying to, when they would have situations like, with the champions, I was like, I don't see I was like, I don't see this working. And then
Well,
there was that horrible issue with him and the Avengers, but that was closer to what I thought should have. He should have never been like just toying with the Avengers in that particular manner, but that's closer to what should have happened. Like, there's no way this guy would ever be a team player.
well, the thing is, I think him being as volatile to the team just added to kind of the fun of it. And I think though the readers actually, I think
Well, not
only,
not volatile.
no, no,
When I'm saying he's cursed, I'm like that dude over
well,
the Ghost Rider that I know of would have like he would not have been a team player because you don't know if he would have like switched to the other team.
well, no, when they were doing it early, it was just times Ghost Rider as Johnny Blake's, and he was a little a little um, heavy, darker or something like that. But I think I kind of fell out when they were trying to do the Zaranthos. They went too far with it, and this is his own. I guess trying to go to like the old demon, where it's like he's an actual demon that's terrible, and you got to like, well, we getting rid of him entirely. We're getting rid of something that was actually cool, only because Marvel's like, yeah, this is a book we've been trying to cancel for years, and we finally did it. We finally said the Zarantos is terrible, and and he comes in and he's not like, oh, here's Angel in the team. No, no, we're not. The shooter's like, we're not doing that. He's just mean. You're gonna put Angel in the hospital and that sort of thing. So it was like, yeah, kind of here, but at the same time, he was just like just the stunt man type of thing, and having some dark thing that it could pull on. But ultimately, with hard with the champions, that the readers kind of said, keep it.
You know his origin?
No, I can't remember what his origin was. It's been
His
years.
origin's cool. He's a stunt driver. He's stunt. He's of course he's a stunt cyclist. That's going well. And then his somebody I forget somebody close to him. I don't know if it was his. I think it's like his uncle or something. But his uncle contracts cancer,
Mm-hmm.
and this was trying to play into the whole thing with the occult that was popular at the time. So he starts searching for a way to cure him, gets into the occult, and then he makes this pact with Mephisto.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's like, hey, if you let him live, I'm sorry, I'm laughing already. He's like, hey, if you let him live, then I promise you my soul. And so he was like, all right, of course. So his uncle is cured of his cancer. And he's like, okay, great. And then I think it's like the very next time they do a stunt, his uncle dies. And then he realized he's been played. And he's like, what? I can't believe this. And I'm, of course, snickering. I'm like, well, what'd you think? But
Mm-hmm.
the way they played it in the comic, it's played better in the comic than what I'm saying. So and then he realizes that he's cursed, he's cursed to become the Ghost Rider, and that's where you get started off. And I was like, so it was very compelling to start, and it never stopped. This is some great issues. There's some great issues. The Death Race is a really nice issue. That's a well received overall. The last issue was pretty good too. Uh, the champion stuff for me is a different character because I was just like, there's no way this. I was just like, there's no way, no way. I was like, there's just no way. That guy you saw in the Avengers, that's really what should have happened. Like, there's no way this guy would have been like, all right, we need to team up. Like, what? No way.
Well, that's the thing is that's the point I was trying to make is that even though that he was the oddest and that he's usually pointed to as the portion that didn't work, his scenes are just killer. That's the hard part of not when Byrne was doing it, and even the
Agreed.
issue with Iron Man, the issue where with Doctor Doom, like they this is, and I don't think as a kid I fully understood what was going on with the issue with Doctor Doom, that the champions were under Doom school. Maybe I did, but I forgot. But then seeing that issue, the ultimate end of it is like, oh, okay, Doom has got all this control. Let me throw let me throw some hellfire into his face. and he has to take
I
off
never
the mask. It was so dramatic. It was such a dramatic scene. I was like, oh
I
yeah.
never thought it was I never thought it was so much of a that the Ghost Rider didn't work. I just thought the champions as a team didn't work. That yeah, that was always like, like how did we get this? We got the Black Widow, Angel, Iceman, and I was just like, why in the world would these guys be getting together, led by Hercules or Black Widow? I was like, this doesn't really. And I actually liked the champions as a team, but when I thought about it, I was like, this is like such a weird pairing of heroes at the end of the day. But I guess they I would have to go back and look at the behind the scenes origins of the champions because I never looked into that. But just the structure of the team itself was sort of like I'm not too sure about this.
Well, the thing is that I think it was Tony and Isabella wanted to just do what they were saying. They were just Marvel saying we need new teams and this, that, and the other. And
That's what it sounds like.
he wanted to do Angel and Iceman, cross the Marvel version of cross, with hard traveling heroes. And they said we have to do the teams are not like two people. It has to be like five people. And I think Tony Isabella said, like the Fantastic Four. And they're like, yes. So they picked and said, you need to have a strong person, female, and then you need a character that has their own title. Like obviously Thor and or whatever, someone in the Avengers, someone had their own title. So Ghost Rider had his own title, so they put him in there. But you see, I think Tony Isabella is struggling with it, but then I think when you see Bill Mantlo and Byrne get on there, and even though I think in that period they had different kind of things of how to go, they both were kind of running on like a ton of energy, being so young and so new in the comic industry. So, and even if Byrne was saying, well, they're taking from this great story in Silver Surfer 3, where the black guy stops the bomb that was going to destroy the world. And now that same bomb is kind of back again, and we have the stranger. But the audience kind of said on issue 13, I had that as a kid, and I had seen the original X-Men, so I was just happy to see, the see the original X-Men. I was a fan of Ghost Rider because he looked cool. I liked them. The only character that was odd for me as a person as a kid was Hercules. And I don't think they really kind of wrote to Hercules. He was just kind of Thor Jr. in the book. So as a kid, that was my reaction. And I definitely get when people look at it and say it didn't work. But at the same time, issue 13 comes out and the kids lose it. And all the people wrote in. But by the time, write-in means that the book is going to stay alive. But at the time, who's that guy? Archie Goodwin had to save the X-Men, Power Man, Iron Fist, and the Champions, which he was working on. That's what he was, when he put Byrne and Mantlo on there, or asked Byrne if he wanted to do it so he can go monthly. But then he's like, oh, they're going to cancel the X-Men. The good Lord. Let me put Byrne on the X-Men, even though that was struggling too. And let me Power Man and Iron Fist, let's make them into one book and see if that saves it. So yeah, the thing is like, well, I'm gonna have to let. He probably was thinking, I gotta let Champions go, and then he gets all this mail, and he's like, fuck. I got in the issue 16, he writes in and he thanks all of the fans and he says, thank you, blah, blah, blah. I said, but, Mantlo's still be here, but Byrne is moving to the X-Men and he's going to be doing Power Man and Iron Fist and team up. So you can go see him over there. And we're getting Bob Hall. Bob Hall was in that issue 16. So, well, Byrne will be inking George Tusker in 17. We'll see how that goes. And then there's no warning, but the only thing that's happened is that the champions show up in two Iron Man stories, an Avengers story, and Spider-Man two-parter where they kind of dissolve the team there. But the people writing them are Mantlo does the Spider-Man issue, but it's just not the energy that they had in what's the name? Like Iron Man beats up. Well, he survived. He's he knocks out Iron Man and the Widow, and he's fighting Hercules until he knocks out Hercules before he runs out of power, using like a pulls some electricity and knocks out Hercules, and they're both on the floor. And then Beast figures out and saves the day after that. But there's a issue where Iron Man is just pounding because he doesn't know why Iron Man is fighting him. He's just taking a beating the whole time trying to figure out why Iron Man is acting like this. It's like it's just to show how tough Iron Man is. But I say all that to say, for the fans, the champions had a shot. The hard part is that it was canceled, so now it's like it just makes it more glaring. But the Mantle and Burn was kind of on the right track, even though the two of them will probably say there's no chance of it. But in looking at the thing, Archie Goodwin was like, "Look at this male! God damn it! I just had to get rid of this title." And the fans are writing in on this and not writing in on the X-Men or Iron Fist. There's no large metal male thing for them. But anyway, Ghost Rider is super cool. This makes sense. Screw you, Marvel, for not doing Blade and putting that on the back shelf. I've already said my ideas of pulling out the Rune character, who's a past and present vampire that was big, drawn by what's the name. You need a character from the fight, go get that character or find, or just, you don't even have to do that. You can just have them fighting some cool vampires. That's the whole thing. But and they have a bunch of other stories. There's a ton of comics. They use stuff from Marv Wolfman. I was looking through the Blade stuff. They already got characters, but they want to do the daughter of Blade and pass the torch. I'm dying here. What are you guys saying, Mahershala Ali? But we need someone to pass the torch so the next character goes to the next thing. But anyway, let's get out of here. I'm going to have to break this one up in multiple pieces. Spin the rack.
Hey, later days.
We are out.